Hey guys, Taylor from Count here. As you may already know, the heart of the Count platform is the Count Notebook. The notebook is both really powerful and flexible, and in this video, I'm going to be walking through its core features and help explain how you and your team can use notebooks to build really engaging data stories. So as you can see, we're starting off with a blank notebook here, and we're going to build our data story together from scratch. We're going to be using some movie data, as we can see our tables over here, and we're going to be looking to answer the question, who is the best James Bond? So the first thing we're going to do is give our notebook a title. Maybe we'll call it The Best Bond, and maybe even a brief introduction to that. We can always come back and add to this as we go through. Now this brings us to one of the main benefits of using notebooks versus other standard reporting tools like dashboards and spreadsheets, which is the ability to add text right alongside your analysis. So this means instead of just sending a single chart with some numbers, you're actually able to keep those numbers in the context that they came from. So you can help explain to your audience how you came to those numbers, what assumptions you've made, what are the key takeaways that they should be looking at in those numbers. And all of this makes much more engaging and trustworthy experience from the audience so they can fully understand the analysis that you've done and not just see some numbers and not be entirely sure what they mean. And I should add, it's not just text either. So you can add in hyperlinks, you can add in section headers, pictures, diagrams, whatever you need, mark down in order to really make the point that you need to make and make your notebook really come to life. So I think we're ready now to dive into the numbers and start to answer our question. In order to do that, we need to make a cell. And cells are basically where we build our queries and where we can see the responses from those queries. In order to add a cell at any point in the notebook, you can either click this button here, or you can hit / and you get a cell. Now there's a few ways that you can build a query in Count, but by far the easiest way to do it is drag and drop. So for my first query in this notebook, I need to first get all the actors that played James Bond and the James Bond films in which they played James Bond. So in order to get that, I'm going to go over to this crew table here. I'm going to grab the name column. And like I said, I wanted the name of the film that they were in, so I dragged that in. And this is now a pair of all the crew and cast and crew and the films. So I need to filter this down to just get where the character is James Bond. And I also want to make sure that I'm only looking at James Bond films and not just a character randomly named James Bond in a non-James Bond film, which apparently exists. And now we can see all of our combination of James Bond actors and their films. Now you may have noticed that these two columns came from two separate tables, and yet I've not had to define the relationship between those tables. And that's because outside of this notebook in our project, we've defined a schema which says how all these tables relate to one another. And then that means whenever we drag in any data from any of these tables, then all that join work is being done automatically in the background, but according to the schema that's already been defined. So that makes it really easy for anyone to come in and start querying data and not getting caught up in making sure the joins are just right, and you know that everyone's doing it the same way. So it's a really powerful tool. We talk a little bit about that in another video. Right, so I'm almost done with this first cell. There's a few more things that I need to add to this in order to start actually being able to compare these guys. And that's maybe I'll take the revenue of each film and the vote average, so how the fans liked each one of them. And then I'm going to go ahead and rename this cell. And you can rename them. It's just really nice way to keep track of your own work, but also if someone else comes to this notebook and they want to know why on earth I made this cell, a cell name is a really nice way to do that. Now, hopefully you've seen now on the left-hand side, we have a new table over here called Bonds, which is the one that we just made. And this brings us to the second main advantage of notebooks, which is that you can link cells together. So to show you what I mean, I'll build a new cell down here. And let's say now I want to compare the vote average for Bond films across all these different actors. So I can do that by bringing in the name, again from this Bonds table we just made, and then I'll take the vote average from here, and I'll take the average, and this will give us the average rating for all the Bond films for each of these actors. Now, if we want to see all the rows, we can go ahead and do that. So there's a few main advantages for being able to structure your queries like this, or your notebook like this, where you can link these different cells together. So the first one is it's a lot simpler to think about. So I can much more logically space out my notebook in a way that says, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is this, and then I'm going to add on to that. And it's much easier, not just for me building the notebook, but like I mentioned before, for someone else coming into this notebook and to see how I've done it. Now, the second thing is for efficiency. So if at some point I want to adapt this analysis to not just be for James Bond's, but maybe I want to look at Marvel characters and how they've done across all their different films, then I can quite easily change this query to be looking at the actors in Marvel films instead of James Bond's, and I can still compare them here down below and everything updates as needed. So it becomes a much more efficient way than trying to look at little subqueries in your SQL statements. So it becomes a really powerful way to structure your analysis and to review it. Now, there's a few things. We've got our answer. We can see Daniel Craig has the highest average rating across all of his films, but this is not the best way to present this information. It would be pretty hard for someone to come to this page and instantly see that the answer is Daniel Craig. So there's a few things I can do to help that. The first thing is, instead of looking at a table, I want to look at a chart. So we can see right off the bat that this has placed something pretty nice for us, but there's a few more things that I might want to change. So one is this header here, and this brings us to maybe the second way that you can query and count, which is using the SQL. So if I turn this to code mode, we can see the SQL that's been generated from my drag and drop queries. Now this is really helpful whether you're SQL Pro, you're new to it, or you're somewhere in between, because you can much more quickly build your queries by dragging in the columns that you want, switching into code mode, and then just editing and adding to that query as you want to. In this case, all I'm going to do is just change the name of this column to be the vote average, and then I'll rerun that. And we can see that that's updated here. And I really want to customize this visual a little bit more to make it much clearer, the order of these guys, because it kind of looks like Sean Connery and Daniel Craig could be almost tied. So I'm going to go ahead and expand the cell here, and I can customize it from here however I want to. So I can change the type of cell, I can move these around, I can do whatever I need to do, but all I'm going to do in this case is just order these in descending order, so it's really clear what the ranking is between them. And now I've got the insight that I want, and now I just need to do a few more things to the notebook to make it really clear what the takeaway is from this. So there's a few things I can do. Firstly, I'll delete this. I can hide cells and parts of cells. If I want to hide this cell, I can do that. I can rename this to be Daniel Craig, and then I can hide the input. And now we can instantly see if someone comes to this page, what is the main visual that they should be looking at. And we can even add a little header here, so we can say Daniel Craig is the people's favorite Bond. Bold. And now someone can really instantly come to this and see what the answer is, but they can unhide these cells in any of this analysis at any point to really see the details of how I've done it. And once I publish it, they can fork it and they can edit it and they can make it their own and they can add on to this analysis. And it's really clear how I've done this and they're not starting from scratch. So the last thing that I want to do is, like I said, just publish this so that other people can start to share it and get the insights themselves. So all I need to do is hit publish. And now my whole team in this project, they have access to this notebook. They can fork it, edit it, make it their own, come back with some more insights. And it's really easy for us all to start collaborating on this notebook. So hopefully that explains how you can get into the notebook for yourself and how you can start building some really engaging data stories for your customers. And that's it from us. I'll go ahead and link this notebook for you guys to take a look yourselves in the comments below. If you've got any questions, drop us a comment or send us a message. And that's it. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.